All right, welcome back to Overengineered, the podcast where we ask the question, what's the absolute best way to do things we already have a perfectly acceptable solution for? Today, I'm here with Ben Holmen and Joe Tannenbaum, and we're going to be talking about Ben's Kilopixel project. But before we get started, just real quick, we had a few little technical glitches. I apologize. The first 40 minutes of this episode is going to be using the wrong mic on my side, and then we had to stop and start recording again. So you're going to hear kind of a jump about 40 minutes in where my mic sounds different. And if you're watching it, Joe's in a different spot. But other than that, everything worked out. So without further ado, here's me, Joe, and Ben.
I am here today with my friends, Ben Holmen and Joe Tannenbaum, and we are going to be talking a little bit about this kind of crazy thing that Ben did called the Kilopixel display. Ben and I talked about it ages ago. I don't even remember how long it's been, but it was a long time ago.
Almost a year? Probably about a year, yeah.
And then I know, Ben, you and Joe talked about it on side projects.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been out in the world, but now it actually happened, and it was like such a joyful thing to be a part of, and we were just hoping to like sit down and talk a little bit about it in one, and now that season 1 is over. So I guess before we get started, both of you have been on the podcast before, but you want to just do quick intros, say hi before we go further?
Sure. I'm Joe Tannenbaum. I work for Laravel. I do some terminal stuff. No, I'm Ben Holmen.
No. I'm Ben Holmen, and you're lucky you got me as a guest at this point. I'm so internet famous. I'm totally booked, and you should be grateful.
Own your own island, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
For real.
Yeah, this feels like a full circle moment because last year, independently, I went and talked to both of you on your podcasts, and that was a real kick in the pants to like ship this thing and figure some things out. I had been just paused on it like you do with any side project, especially those that only cost money and don't ever hope to like turn into a business. And chatting with both of you is very inspiring. So I am really glad that we can like come back after it's wrapped up, or at least this edition of the Kilopixel is wrapped up. So to set the stage a little bit for anyone who wasn't around for it, no fault there, but I built a very impractical, slow-moving, slowly updating 1,000-pixel display. So you can draw on a grid that's 40 by 25, and it turns a single pixel at a time. So instead of like refreshing at 120 times per second, a million pixels, whatever your phone or your laptop is doing, this will do like 1 pixel every 5 or 6 seconds or so. So it's like millihertz refresh rates, basically. So it's a wildly like ridiculous thing to build. When I talked to the two of you, I didn't really have it was a totally different version of the project. I was doing like round balls, and Chris, I think you and I talked about like illuminated switches that you can poke and turn on and off, that kind of thing. And then I left those conversations feeling like I gotta actually finish this. Like I've got a lot done. I gotta ship the thing. So since those conversations last year, I just kept picking on it, totally rebuilt the web app, came up with a totally new pixel design, like what the thing is actually built out of. And then I went and made 1,000 of them and did a bunch of prototyping work and got it out on the internet, which was the real like the end goal, was to get it out in the world so people could play with it.
Yeah, I gotta say, it's moving around behind you. It's got a real sort of ominous, lurking energy as it's moving around and poking pixels. It's like, at any time it could just sort of like snap off the wall and just grab Ben or something. I don't know. It just feels ominous back there.
I'm not sure what this one's designing, but there is one that kind of feels like a little bit of a void. Someone designed something that feels like a hole or something collapsing in on itself, and that's being drawn behind me, I think, right now. So to jump ahead a little bit, I let anyone on the internet like submit something to be drawn here, and I don't remember the exact number, but somewhere in the range of hundreds of submissions, and they each took about 40 minutes to be drawn. So that took about a week and a half to make it down to the bottom of the queue, basically. And now I've moved it. When it was streaming, I didn't dare put it behind me, like at my day job,
Yeah.
just in case something slipped through, you know?
Strong.
But now that it's no longer live streaming, I'm not accepting submissions for it. I have it just cycling through some of my favorites. So I picked like a subset of all that were submitted, and it just draws one and then picks another one. And it's kind of fun to not really know what it's going to draw next, but to like
That's so cool.
recognize them once they start to appear.
That's very fun.
Okay, so to back up a little bit, you finished it, and then you were like, okay, we have a little chat, and you kind of put in the chat like, I wanna push this thing, I want to make it happen, I want to see what happens when the internet gets its grubby little hands on it, and I want to make it. You said I want to make it like big, I want to make a splash with it. I put a lot of effort in. I would like at least a sort of like social return on that effort, if anything. I mean, that's not what you said, but that's what I'm deriving from what you said.
I was looking for payoff,
which is
sure.
valid. Yeah, yeah.
I talked to a lot of people over the last 6 years about this thing, and it was pretty universally like, yeah, I get it. That's cool. I want to see that thing. And my original concept was just having it in a coffee shop, so a few people could see it. But our conversations last year kind of sparked like, well, how could I put this on the internet and like keep it safe or make it interesting? There are some really weird constraints with like basically one person's running it at once for 40 minutes. So if you submit something, it's not going to be drawn for maybe days. And then at the same time, I couldn't just let everyone work on it at once, like an our place or a million checkboxes thing, where too many people are trying to control it, and so nobody gets the satisfaction out of it. Like it just turns into a mess, and no one can accomplish something. So there was a lot of tension there. Where I landed on it is I live streamed it, and I had 2 views of it. You can find this on YouTube. A broad view where you could see the entire display, and then a close-up of the actual mechanisms that's turning these wooden blocks that form each pixel, which is very satisfying to watch. Actually, it turns out it's kind of like an ASMR sort of ambient background display to have going. I got comments from folks who just said, "Hey, I love watching this in the background. Like, it's fun to leave it going," which was a little wild to me. So I had
that
a
is my only
setup.
That's my only complaint is that the one day that you put the audio on, it was so good. The fact that I totally get why you can't do it, but it was just like so much more satisfying to just like hear the little motor running, and hear the little pokes happening.
A little
it was
click.
fantastic. Yeah.
I turned the audio on for Chris for like 20 minutes when I didn't have a meeting going on, but I couldn't have like a one-on-one call with someone and then be streaming that. Like if you turn your speakers way up, you could hear what was going on in my office. But it does make a satisfying sound.
So you put out a blog post. That was the mechanism. Oh yeah. Okay.
I'll get to the blog post. I was live streaming, but then I also was cutting time lapses and uploading them to Blue Sky and posting them to the website as well. So people we handled that leg of I submit it on Monday morning and it's not going to be drawn until Tuesday afternoon. There was like some feedback in that loop. And people got really excited when they could like watch their thing being drawn on the live stream. Like that totally worked. So you're right. I did want it to hit. Like I had a sense from talking to people that it was going to hit. And I knew that I would need something to share. Like I would need a really kick-ass blog post about all the things I'd gone through. And I'll tell you what, I have so much appreciation for creators who can like do a complex project and then like film it and then tell a narrative through it and all that. That's like a whole different project.
Yeah.
And by the end, I just wanted to ship this. I didn't want to think about all the steps. I didn't want to create a narrative. I didn't want to copy images and go back in my photo roll 4 years looking for something that would illustrate a point. Like it was exhausting, but I knew I needed to do that to have it hit, that people would respond really strongly to my struggle through this project that didn't even need to exist. But they would really appreciate a narrative in a blog post. And so I knew I had to do it. So I almost did it at the last minute. I took a couple days to write it. And then I spent I was definitely aiming this for like the Hacker News audience. And I picked Aaron Francis's brain about like, what time of day do you do it at? How do you title it? What's a good headline for this? And there's a specific way of like, you go to show HN first, and then if it gets picked up there, you'll head to the front page of Hacker News. And my ambition was front page of Hacker News. That would have felt like, got it. And it hit.
And did
there.
you surpass your ambition, Ben?
I did surpass my ambition. So I haven't been this nervous in a while, actually. I was kind of surprised at how much I didn't want to put this in the world at the very last moment. I didn't want to like find out, maybe, like, is it going to hit or not? Or I wasn't sure what the reception would be like. Like, Hacker News can be a little, like, it has a reputation for tearing people apart.
Yeah.
I was also worried about the thing breaking and not having bandwidth to fix it. And I was like trying to fit this into my personal life. Like, I have a day job. It's by its nature like a 24/7 thing. So if I have 3 hours of meetings, it's going to be broken for 3 hours. So
it was also happening right around Laracon, right? You're traveling to Denver for Laracon, and like days before that, you were like finishing things up.
Oh,
so
100%.
That's a factor as well.
Yeah, I did my first streaming. Well, really, I did my first like 1,000 pixel draw, and then it worked, and I could hardly believe that it actually worked. Like, I thought I was going to have like a 5% error rate, but 5% error rate on 1,000 pixels is 50 pixels, and that would not look right. But I got it. It was like sub 1% error rate, and I could fix it. So I actually just started streaming on a whim. Like, it actually worked. I'm going to try the streaming now and put it up. And it was really fun to have that to show folks at Laracon. People in our community could like visualize it a little bit better. I cracked open the door a little bit on like, go ahead and draw something. So I had like, and I think this happened accidentally, but I think it was really good to hit Hacker News with a queue of about 20 things that were drawing.
Right, you had some stuff in the hopper already.
Right, and that just happened serendipitously by me like sharing it with some friends. And so there were some things from like a week or two in advance of the launch that were like ready to go.
Yeah, I was going to say, before we get to the Hacker News launch, can we like go back 2 steps? Because I feel like it feels to me like this story has 2 other pieces. That's one of them. Is, you know, there's this moment when you were like, guys, this is actually working. Joe accidentally publishes the URL to the web.
Okay. Let me just say about that. I said,
let me
know. I said verbatim, let me know when I can scream about this. And you said, yeah, scream away. And I went, great. And I put the URL up, the only URL I had and I knew about, I put up. And you were like, dude, that's my private URL. And I was like, oh, who am I to know? Like, what's going on? So, I goofed, but, you know, it was a goof with permission-ish.
And
you know.
I think it actually was great because a few people who were paying attention got in there, right?
Immediate big retweets actually in the 5 minutes it was up, which is like strong, you know.
And I think that getting that, like, it was almost like a beta release, right? You like got a handful of people drawing pictures, talking about it a little bit, and I think that was great. But even like stepping back from there, I think as this thing became a reality, right? As it went from this is the thing that you're talking about to this is the thing that you can like see the light at the end of the tunnel of. I think it was very interesting, at least for me, to watch you start to figure out what that needed to look like and think about things like the technical limitations, the moderation, sort of the launch plan. Like, I think all of that stuff is also very interesting. I don't think we should gloss over it because it's kind of it felt like an important part of the process.
Yeah.
I think particularly
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You can't just put stuff out there and think people are going to find it. And then you have to be ready for like, it's like a empathetic approach to it. Like, how are people going to receive this? How are they going to want to interact with this? How are they going to want to abuse this thing? You have to think about humans in all those ways if you want it to like work out well. And I find that stuff very fascinating. Like, what would be interesting to someone who's never heard of this before? Or what's a hook that they would really be into? how are people going to try to break my voting system? How are people going to try to break my reporting system, which I built? Like I originally had a way to take down gross submissions, basically, but I decided that more people would abuse it than use it, so I took that down.
Yeah.
But you have to think about all those things, and then of course, writing the blog post, you absolutely have to be thinking about your audience there and what people are going to respond to. If is this like a tutorial, like you can do this, or is this like I'm going to take you on a wild ride that I've been on, that kind of thing? You have to think about that as you're getting ready to put stuff out into the world. And you're absolutely right. That's a totally different mindset to get into, totally different than like the woodworking or writing CNC code or whatever it is. That's a totally different aspect of the project that it wouldn't have been successful without all those things. And it is its own like pursuit. It's satisfying in its own unique ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think
I also think there's a.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I think that it's going to happen 100 more times. I appreciate the sort of optimism with which you put it out, meaning like you didn't put a ton of guardrails in place about like image monitoring. You're just like, you know what, we're going to like cross those bridges as we approach them. And like, if we need to deal with it, we'll deal with it. And it's not the way I would have put in like all of these like image analysis guardrails and all this crazy stuff, but like it wasn't necessary. You really approached it with a really like lovely optimism about the project. And I think you, in the same way you were like, you have to think about this like empathetically, you were like, I think more people are going to find joy than want to abuse this. And that's what ended up happening. And it's really, it was such a lovely thing to watch unfold over the course of like, however long this was, a week and a half, whatever it was. But I thought that was great. I really, really liked that.
Yeah, and it's not to say that you didn't think about it. Like I know we had those conversations.
Yep.
And we talked about scale and we talked about moderation, both of which like could have been things that you way over engineered ahead of time, right? I know that like a belief system that I have about the world is that fewer people than you expect, or most people want to do the right thing, and you can take advantage of that. Some people won't, and you have to be realistic about it. But I think a lot of times we sort of overcorrect.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my perspective that I brought to that conversation. And I'm glad to see that it that I didn't totally screw you over with it.
Yeah. Okay. Boy, dodged a bullet with that one, Chris. Yeah, I definitely approached it with like, it's going to work out, and I know where I'm going to insert controls if it's not.
Yeah,
exactly. And I had a few failure modes. I'm like, well, if someone could easily just take a look at what API calls are being made and what my auth is, and then like submit 1,000 of the same image. Like there were some that could have made for a mess for me, but most of them were just like, I'll just pause the thing, or I'll turn off the live stream or whatever.
Right.
It also really helped that there is absolutely no money involved, and it's absolutely like almost charming if it breaks, but not like, like it's not going to hurt my reputation if this weird thing doesn't work out perfectly. And that really took some of the pressure off, like it performing perfectly. And I had like overnight, it pulled out a wire when I was my first night. It managed to unplug one of the motors, and so it
tried to destroy itself. It was like, I'm so tired.
Just quitting already.
Get me out of here.
And so like it ruined 6 or 8 submissions, and so I like re-queued them the next morning after I fixed it, or my live stream would have to be restarted periodically. Like it's fine. It's totally fine. And none of that caused a problem. Nobody was upset with me, and it's just kind of expected when you're building something like this.
Yeah, so we're like, you're talking about it. We're having a conversation. I'm sure you're talking with other people about like some of these questions, but like you're thinking about scale. You're thinking about it because you're like, I'm going to submit this to Hacker News. Maybe it's going to hit the homepage. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. Like I need to be prepared. It's just running on a DigitalOcean droplet, right? It's not anything crazy.
Yes. So I have a couple sites on this. Nothing wild. It is just a straight up provision by Forge DigitalOcean droplet. Do either of you remember how long it took for me submitting it to when it hit number 1 on Hacker News? Was it like half an hour?
It was not long. It was, I mean, relatively speaking, it was pretty quick. Yeah.
It went up real fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I submitted it. It got a few posts, something like 8 or 9 votes on Show HN and some friendly comments. I sent that to Aaron, and he said, "Yep, you're home free now. It's good. It's going to hit the homepage now." Like, it just takes a
Oh
few
yeah, he
votes,
could
like
tell.
more than 5,
Hmm.
to like promote it out of Show HN.
Hmm.
And it's very novel compared to a lot of the like software projects that come through there. So it had a good shot, of course. And then it just rocketed up the front page,
Like
and
so
I
fast.
like I took a screenshot when it hit number 1 because I'm like, I can't believe I hit number 1 on Hacker News. That's what so many people chase, especially like
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had like this perverted joy of like, there's so many people who are like trying to buy their way to the top spot, or we're like they've got whatever multi-million dollar VC backed like startup dream that they're like, this is part of our launch plan. We're going to get to the top of Hacker News or whatever. And my project is like not throwaway, but like it has no economic value. It is simply just like for the pure silliness and joy of being a weird little human that I'm going to do this stupid project, and it's going to go to that coveted top spot, and I'm not going to do anything with that spot other than just like share this ridiculous thing with the world.
You
And then
can
it
write a
stayed
new
there.
blog post that said the key to getting the top spot on Hacker News is to grind on wooden cubes for 6 straight years.
There you
And then
go.
and
Get
you like
on my
forget all
level.
of those other tactics. Like that's the way. You get there in 30 minutes, no problem.
That's right. Don't try. No, I think the
Yeah.
key is you don't care too hard about it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But I made it, which
Well,
felt
you
like
care. You do have to care some, right? It's not that you can't care at all,
it wasn't
because
caring
you
that
did
I
put a
hit that
lot of
spot.
care into it. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Sure.
wasn't my ambition, was hitting that. That was like, I can't believe I made it, not just to the homepage, but to the top spot.
Yeah.
And then the crazy thing is it stayed there for a day. It stayed there,
A
I think it was
Whole
top
day.
spot for
A
23 hours
day.
straight, which I think is the really weird part. Not hitting 1, but staying at 1, because there's a lot of churn at the top.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
just was pinned there. So I couldn't believe my like good fortune on that. That really was a generous response. And
Well, to zoom out though, to zoom out for 1 second,
yes, sir.
you created what is essentially Hacker News catnip. Like you really did. Like
Yeah.
it's a very well, it's a genuinely cool project. You physically built it, which makes you already stand out amongst every weird software thing that people try to show on Hacker News. And then there's still a software component, and then you wrote a really compelling journey article about it. It was just like the whole package was just like, how could you? And you were live streaming it, so there was like a live in the
Yeah.
now element to it. I mean, it was
Was it social element as well?
as soon as it hit a hack number 1, I was like, this is gonna be a little bit. I think it's gonna stick around for a minute. Like, I mean, it was a little more than I thought it was gonna be, but it was incredible. I mean, a day, man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
How long did it take between the Hacker News submission and the first person reaching out about an article?
It was later that afternoon. It was within
Yeah.
24 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So
who all
I had-
wrote about it?
Well,
Yeah.
no. First of all, how did that feel?
Yeah.
How was that? How was that day? Like, how were you? What was your
Oh, man.
state of mind?
So I was, like I said, anxious. I almost didn't want to ship it, but I also needed to get like, I want this to run for about 2 weeks. And I have like a trip coming at the end of like what was last weekend. But basically, I had 12 days. And I thought like maybe I should push it to next week. But then what if it's like still going? Like, what if it's still popping off when I'm supposed to leave town? That's not going to feel good. So I didn't have a great situation. It had to be after Laracon. Like, this started the Monday after Laracon. So I had a very limited, like, very set schedule I needed to land it in. And I wanted to not do it because I didn't feel quite ready, but I knew it was all ready. It was just like my anxiety of like, I
Yeah.
want my thing to
Yeah.
work, you know?
Yeah.
I want people to respond to the thing I made. I felt like I had one shot to really like make a splash with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I started real anxious. I almost didn't do it, but I pushed through that, got it out there, and then once I got that message from Aaron that was like, "Hey, it's in the bag now. Like, you're off Show HN. You're headed to the front page." I felt relief, and also the machine was working. Like, my traffic was picking up, my server was staying up. Like, as time passed, then it was just like playing with house money. Like, okay, I made it to the front page. That's great. My friends are having fun with my thing. That's great. People are sharing it around. That's great. Like, I checked off all the boxes of like the response I was hoping for in like the first hour. So after that was just like,
unheard of.
this is
Incredible. Like,
unbelievable.
that's amazing.
Like,
That's amazing.
yeah. So that was the like, I felt very fortunate that so many people responded, because like by lunchtime, I was telling Megan, like, I can't believe this. This is nuts. Like, this never happens. And like, things are working and it's all coming together. So then I was just like, just pure joy from then on. My boss, I think my boss dropped, look who's on the front page of Hacker News post, like sometime around lunch. So my coworkers were in on the fun of it as well. And people I hadn't heard from in a while were reaching out because of it. And it's just crazy to see that. So I
That's
got
very cool.
63,000 unique visitors on my blog the first day. The next day was about 60, and a total of 160,000 uniques on my blog.
That's
which
what's up. That's amazing.
Crazy
That's
amounts
amazing.
of traffic for
Yeah.
some dude's blog post.
That's wild.
I've never had anything hit. I did a shower manifesto a few years ago. Joe, I think that you've mentioned that's like how you first like got in touch with
That's
me.
how you arrived on my radar. Yeah.
And that was somewhere around the front page of Hacker News. I don't know. I didn't submit that one. I just heard like, oh, that was on Hacker News. So I don't know if that was the top spot. It drove a lot of people and has led to some really funny conversations, but this was like on a different level than that. My blog served 969 gigabytes of traffic, so I almost hit a terabyte. If I looked at it now, I might have gone over a terabyte. We'll see. That's a lot of like, I had some animated GIFs, so each visitor was hitting like 12 or 14 megs if they scrolled to the bottom. But the fun thing of that is, out of those 969 gigs, 968 were served by Cloudflare and my little server.
Cloudflare. Thank you, Cloudflare.
Due to some pretty aggressive caching strategies I have on that. And then the actual Kilopixel. So I was sharing a blog post, and that was typically what was being shared around. Like, as it got picked up by other outlets, they were linking to my blog post on benholman.com. But then the actual Kilopixel controller sits at kilopx.com. And that was like secondary. People were definitely reading the blog post and not actually going to the other. So I got a total of 43,000. To break that up, that was 160,000 read the blog post. 43,000 actually went and looked at the thing. And then something like 15,000 views on YouTube of the streamer, like the embedded video that was streaming. So
those are very strong numbers. Those are very good numbers.
That was way more than I was expecting. I don't know if I had to pick like how many people do I want to read this on my blog, it would have been in the thousands. Like, if I had 2,000 people read my blog post about my project, I would have been like, that's great. Cool.
This is great.
Love it. So that was wild. The droplet, as we mentioned, that did lock up at one point. I think I probably could have survived if I was a little more conservative and cached more heavily. But I was really trying to avoid like not building this thing to be bulletproof. Like, just get it out in the world. Don't over optimize it. And so I just doubled the size of the droplet, took advantage of it being offline for a few minutes, and just shut it down and resized it, put it back up again, and it was fine. So the infrastructure was not much of a worry at all. The infrastructure wasn't really too much of a worry for me. And that also made it much easier to just enjoy the project.
Yeah, can you talk just real briefly about like how did that all work? Like, I know we talked a little bit about like what the game plan was, but like what was the final like infrastructure layout of how things talk to each other, what was running?
So it helps if you think of it in 3 different nodes. The first thing is maybe the easiest to understand. That's the actual physical kilopixel that's hanging on the wall. It is the grid of pixels, and then you can find pictures of this on my blog if you haven't seen it yet. Basically, it's like a 3D printer where I have stepper motors that can move it around to the individual pixel locations. And so to do that, it has two pieces of like two types of computers attached to it. It has a CNC controller, which tells the motors, here's how to do your job. And that's connected by USB to a Raspberry Pi. That Raspberry Pi is just running in a loop. It runs a setup script first to tell the machine, like, this is how big you are. This is how many steps per millimeter, that kind of like configuration thing. But then it runs in a loop and it just says, hey, here's the next pixel. Here are some instructions to give to the CNC controller to go to the right location and then to poke that pixel to turn it. And then it goes back to the server and says, all right, I looked at a light sensor and that pixel seems to be off and it's at this X and Y. And then the server stores that to the state and responds with, here, go to this pixel next. And it just repeats that. So it gets a fresh set of like, go to this coordinate, go change that pixel, and then tell me what the current state is. So there's
the controller at the Raspberry Pi is just like, it's just a loop that all it does is talk to some other thing that's thinking. Yep. And just says, here's where I am, tell me what to do next, essentially.
Yep. It's kind of a bit of a dumb client. And one of the interesting things about that is it could be talking to anyone. That could be talking to anyone's API, if that makes sense. But it's talking to my API. So the second aspect of this system is my web server running a Laravel app. That app maintains the current state of the Kilopixel of all the 1,000 pixels, and then it has a web app served at kilopix.com, which is a inertia and view app where you can see what other people have submitted. You can create your own submissions, and then you can interact with that, like upvoting them up and down the queue to decide what should be displayed next. So that's the source of truth of what is the state of the display, and then what should it be? Like, what do we need to change to get it to the desired state, if that makes sense? So how this machine has operated is it will draw a picture, and then once it has finished drawing the picture, it will say, what should I draw next? Which is the top of the queue. Like, what's the most voted submission? And then it calculates a diff of those pixels. So like if I have this one picture, then I overlay another one on top of it, which pixels need to change to get me to that location? And so that's typically like 300 to 600 pixels actually need to change from off to on or on to off. And then it just marks all those pixels as pending. It says like this one is off, but it should be on, or this one is on, but it should be off. And then it knows the location of all those pixels, and it knows where's the last location of the kilopixel. So if it's working in the top left corner, it can give it a pixel that's nearby to do next. And then it just feeds them. It does a calculation each time the kilopixel asks, says, what should I do next? It says, all right, here's the next best pixel for you to change, and sends that down to the client.
And what's kind of fun about that is I know over the course of that first week, you talked about like enabling different strategies, right? So like you had this like most efficient strategy, but at some point you're just like, I'm just going to swap that out for pick a random pixel that needs to move.
Mode.
Right, exactly. So I had somebody submit a perfectly on submission, 1,000 pixels that were all turned on, and then someone submitted 1,000 pixels all turned off, which is actually, they took a lot of clicking to get that done. So kudos to whoever that was. And then someone voted them, or collectively, the people voted those two next to each other. So it would have to completely change the state. 1,000 pixel diff, which is the only time it happened over 10 days or so. And so when I saw that coming, I changed it to just pick a random pixel. And it took about 2.5 times as long as my like optimal strategy. But it did make for an interesting time lapse. I let that run for just that one, and then I changed it back. But you could have a lot of fun. I was talking to Mark Jakewith about this at Laracon beforehand, and he suggested like a spiral pattern, like always start in the middle and work your way out, which would be very satisfying.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
you could pick like the least efficient mode, like what is the maximum travel distance, which is even worse than just random. And then where I landed, which was most aesthetically pleasing, but also relatively efficient, was just like stay pretty close, but tend to go up and down a little bit more than left and right, which the physical limitations of the machine, it just works a little bit better for it to go up and down than left and right. It tends to swing a little bit when it's going left to right, if it's near the bottom. So I didn't want to do that more than I had to.
Okay, so you blew up on the internet. You became internet famous. Your whole personality changed.
Oh yeah, I'm a different
You became
man.
a real jerk in chat.
I think I've outgrown this friendship. Maybe.
This is the end.
I'm shocked we're talking right now. I am genuinely shocked.
Honestly though, you two have been the best like partners on this project. Like we're good friends outside of podcasting. We became good friends. Chris, you and I became good friends probably because of that podcast we recorded.
I think so, yeah.
And we've got a good friendship going. Which I'm very grateful for in general, but I'm particularly grateful for your hype and patience for this project over the last few months, because you heard about it more than anybody. And the number of updates and like, here's a video of it doing something just a little bit more than last time you saw it. The kinds of updates you guys have tolerated and welcomed has been a joy for me. So I just want to call it.
It was a joy for us too. I mean, it was really fun to get behind the scenes, you know?
I'm also glad you finally acknowledged that we're partners on the Kilopixel and that we did as much work as we did, because I really felt like we were out of the narrative and I didn't think that was very fair. So, you know, yeah,
well,
equal partners,
credit.
The three of us.
Yeah. Equal.
Yeah,
partners.
Equal partners.
Once it was Joe and I probably are a little bit more important, right?
I mean, yeah.
You just cut the wood. I mean,
come on, man.
It's just 1,000 pixels. It's not that hard. But you two, once it was out, were like the best hype men I could ask for. Chris, I think you drew more on the Kilopixel than anybody. You had some
also really well. Like,
yes.
What is this? How did you know
how to do this? It turns out Chris
this?
is really good at pixel art, and I had no idea.
You know, you grew up on the internet in the 90s, and you get good at pixel art.
Well, you have
I did too, but I'm terrible at it. I'm terrible. No, I was so impressed. You were really breaking out some impressive, detailed pictures for the canvas that you were provided. I was is awesome.
Yeah,
it was a blast. I mean, I feel like the drawing interface that you made was very intuitive to use. It had keyboard mode, which was great. And I particularly appreciated that in keyboard mode, you could hold space and move the arrow and it would draw. So I thought that the UI was great. And then in addition to that, I mean, I sent you guys the script, but like at one point I was like, all right, I need to speed myself up. So I wrote a little PHP script that would take a black and white image input and print out the JSON representation of that as kilopixel like data. And then I would just go into the
local storage.
Yep. I just go into the web inspector.
We love Chris so much.
To be clear, I created an image uploader for the rest of the world, but Chris refused to use it. He's like, no, I got my system. I just modify my local storage. Like, why would I want to do that?
I remember saying, Chris, how are you doing these so fast and so well? And we just got like the little simple smiley emoji, just like, no. And then he's like, this is what I'm doing. He sent his script, sent the local storage JSON. I was like,
of course. Yeah.
So, Chris, okay, we don't have a lot of time here. So I want to get to one last piece, which is you blew up on the internet. Everybody, people are reaching out at this point. Like you got people reaching out. Like who are the sort of name drops some people? Who are some of the people reaching out?
Yeah. So the first media outlet was 404 Media, which does great reporting on the internet in general. Yep. I've been following them. So that was fun. Like the first one is somebody I recognized. And then the next one was The Register, which I had to read about, but they're a big deal, which I'll come back to them in a second. So they were two that like reached out for comments and had questions about how does it work? What's working? Like, what are you going to do next? But then there's the whole secondary market of like the internet sees something and then they write an article about it or link to it, which I was hoping would hit on this, and it totally did. So one that hit early was Tom's Hardware, which I definitely have heard of and read. Like people are reading that thing.
Yes.
And my uncle who I had previewed this to like 3 or 4 weeks prior. And I got to backtrack a sec. My uncle Bruce is the guy that like got me into like writing software. He got me hooked up with Visual Basic 1.0 on a Windows 3 computer. Like he showed me Linux before I'd ever seen anything. So I am deeply indebted to Bruce. He had seen this, and then on an Android phone, there's a whole pane where Google just shows you articles you may be interested in. Tom's Hardware popped up for my Uncle Bruce, and he's like, that looks like Ben's thing. So it made it through the internet to Tom's Hardware and back to my uncle.
Yes. Wow, that's so satisfying.
Boing Boing had it. Adafruit's blog, Adafruit sells some of the things that are sitting on this wall. Like the part of the machines came from Adafruit, so that was fun. Some other places that like beautiful corners of the internet I had not seen before picked it up. I just had not heard, and they are doing some cool stuff about like just sharing things. I found out about that because I actually sent a tip to Jason Kotke at kotke.org, and he has a like, hey, if you're working on something, feel free to send it to me, like brag a little bit. I thought, well, I'll send this to him. By the way, I won't respond to any emails. I get too many emails, but I read everything. Like, okay, great. I read Kotke forever, like since he started in the early 2000s or whatever. He responded like an hour later. Yeah, I saw that on waxy.org and I already have something in the queue for it. I'm like, Jason Kotke's seen my thing. I reached out, but he'd already like had something in his queue. So he published it for me. That felt cool, like a real like, oh, I can't believe I'm actually on the thing I've been reading since I was a young man. And then in the same way, Hackaday did a feature on it as well. And this is absolutely inspired by places like Hackaday, or I should say, like the things that have been on Hackaday forever. So there are a number of like outlets like that really felt like checking a bucket list item off. Like I didn't think I would ever have something featured on those places, but it felt like such a treat to get there.
And you didn't have to do the reaching out. They were like, everyone is happily just sharing it and like grabbing, like latching onto it. It's amazing.
It's the kind of project they love to share.
Including there's one person that you haven't mentioned that heard about it. Going back to the register.
Going back to the register. So after I'd shut this down, it's currently not live streaming anymore. I'm like considering it done for season 1. I don't know what I'll do next. So it's done. But the reporter who had reached out from the register and we'd emailed back and forth a bit said, hey, I thought you'd want to know that the guy who started Raspberry Pi gave me a quote for my article. So I think this reporter like has worked with him in the past. Like he's a tech reporter, sent it to him for comment. And the guy who like is responsible for the Raspberry Pi that's running this thing has seen it and gave a very flattering, like it's nerdy in the best way possible kind of quote back. Yeah. So how wild is that?
That's so
incredible, man. That's so cool.
One thing that I said to you earlier that I want to bring up here because I feel like we haven't rectified this is the word that I haven't heard you use nearly enough for this is art. This is not just that it's displaying art, but like I think what you've done is just an incredible piece of performance technology art. I don't know exactly how you'd even categorize it.
Yeah.
I mean, just even the orchestration of all of these components to work together so beautifully is art. I mean, that's art.
I didn't really get around to the third part of the project, like the third component of like the live streaming setup and all that too. Speaking of orchestrating everything,
right?
Dealing with all time lapses and upload them to Blue Sky and all that. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you calling it
as always.
Art. I kind of struggle with that myself because it's hard to define like something is or isn't art, or to call something you do or is art or isn't. Also, this feels very like mechanical, and I don't know why. When I see other people's mechanical art, like I think they're called Strawn Beasts. There's a guy that builds these gigantic machines that walk the beaches of
Holland,
I think. Very mechanical, but it feels like art to me. For some reason, my own thing, very mechanical. I know the guts of it inside and out. It doesn't feel as artsy, like coming from the inside. But I think it is. I think it's fair to call it an
It
art project.
is definitely art.
Well, I mean, I feel like you and I talked about the "Can't Help Myself" sculpture, the
That's the machine that's cleaning
mechanical,
up.
yeah, which is so undeniably beautiful art, right? And I feel like that's very much a uh, mechanical thing in the same way, right? It's like
Yeah.
this piece of engineering that evokes a feeling,
Yeah.
right?
It's just
That
it's just the medium, right? It's just
yeah,
the medium with which you're working.
Yeah.
That's okay.
yeah.
I tend to think of this like I don't think it's making a statement, which I think is important for art, but it is
Mm,
making you feel something, which I think
yeah.
is more critical. And
Yes.
really, what's interesting to me about it is it's making you feel like whimsy and delight and joy, which love that. Like that's kind of my vibe in the world. But that's not normally something I think like when I'm taking photographs, I'm not like generating whimsy and delight and joy with my photographs. It's more like feelings of peace or feelings of like anxiety or something coming through. So it's like a different suite of emotional response than I'm used
Mm,
to associating with art. Um, like I was just in the Minneapolis Institute of Art last weekend, and I didn't feel a lot of like whimsy and joy and like connection to humanity through those things. I felt a lot of other things. And so this feels like it's in a different class than what I would typically consider like an art project.
but art should also make you feel like it, art isn't exclusively like bad feelings or something
Yeah.
like that, right?
Yeah.
Like
I hope not.
whimsy and joy are certainly in the bounds of art.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, yeah, there are no limitations on it, and I would argue to say that art doesn't even need to make you feel something. Like the lack of feeling something is also maybe valid if that's the goal of what you were doing or the creativity or the process. You know what I mean? Like not feeling something particular is also a feeling in and of itself, kind of. I mean, art is all, I don't think anybody's ever said this, but it's in the eye of the beholder. You know what I mean? So I think, that was a terrible joke. Uh, I guess
I was just waiting to see where you're going with that, Joe.
the
I'll have
lack
you
of
know that I
registering
really
anything
wanted.
on either of your faces
No,
was devastating in my chest.
no, I can't tell you how hard I suppressed my urge to go for the jugular when you said art doesn't have to make you feel anything. I really wanted to say, well, that's your art, Joe.
Oh.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm
I
sorry,
gotta
we
go.
got to edit that part out. That didn't land. Nobody liked that
I
joke,
think it's about the
and it was
creative. I think it's
mean.
you did a creative endeavor, right? Like you did. This requires a lot of creativity, and I think like almost regardless of the end product, that in and of itself, the process is art. I don't know. I this is art through and through to in my eyes.
Here's a question, Joe. Your
Yeah.
your terminal experiments, if we can kick back like 2 years, when you were kicking out like car dashboards in the terminal and music players and webcams, that feels kind of in a similar vein. And I think it got a similar kind of response of like, I have no idea why you do this, but I love it. And like that whimsy and that joy. Like, I don't know why this guy did this thing, but it's really cool and I'm going to share it. Kind of a similar kind of response to this thing. Like, why would you do that?
I think for me, where I'm sitting, the main difference between what I was doing and what you did is that I look at what you did and I go, I have no idea how this man did this. Like somebody could sit down in the terminal and figure out eventually this is how you whatever. But the number of skills and thinking process and things that you had to string together to make what is actively happening behind you right now is extremely impressive. Like I, I could maybe do the programming part of it, but like the
We could
machinery,
definitely do
the
that.
wood cutting, like all that stuff is like not in my wheelhouse right now. But like I think there's a big jump between like the sort of thing I was doing and the things that you're doing.
But
Not
I
to like
don't.
we're not
I'm
ranking
thinking
anything
about
here,
like
but like I
the
just
emotional response though, and like why does it resonate? I think the
because
scale
it's
of what
fun.
we did
It's
was
just fun.
different. This one is just a
Yeah.
longer, like stuck to it for years, and yours were
Right.
like, I'm gonna knock this out in a few hours and see like if I can build on what
Yeah.
I did. So like
Yeah.
the scale of what we were doing is different, but the response is similar. And that's what I was calling out. Like why do people
I
like
think
something
also
goofy like
because
that?
the internet is so self-serious these days.
Yeah.
It's just like it's just a different animal, and like projects like yours harken back to an internet that was so much more fun, and so it was just like a little more Wild West. It
I
was a
think
little
you're
more
right.
experimental, and I think people feel that. I think they're like, man, I wish we had more of this, right? Like, who looks at this and doesn't think like, I want more of this in the world, right? Like, this is fun.
By
And
the
I
way,
think that's what
currently
people latch on
drawing a scene from the Oregon Trail that my buddy Jesse.
to. I'm just trying to. Oh my god, it totally is.
It
I was
really
trying to figure it
is.
out. Oh, that's so
I,
good.
so
Jesse,
I think you guys are right to a degree, but I also think it's just, I mean, people love to celebrate a creative pursuit. People love things that are joyful and that are whimsical. And I think that both of the projects, I think you're dead right. Like both of the projects tap into that, like that joy in human nature. I don't even think it necessarily has to do anything with the moment in time. I think that if you had built this 15, 20 years ago, people would have loved it
yeah,
then,
I think you're right.
right? I think it's just like these are just fun. Like it is a beautiful thing that like as humans we can like take a just this idea that we have and like through the power of like our thoughts and like these tools that we have make it a reality, right? This is amazing that we can do it. And it does, it evokes emotion. It like speaks to humanity, like not to like overhype the or oversell it, but like I really think it does. I think that that's why it's art. I think that's why both of those things are art. Like that is what it's about, is like expressing yourself, expressing some feelings,
Mhm.
expressing something. And like this clearly does that, you know?
And also, I will just tack on to that. There was no ask. There was no like, you can see this in exchange for your email address, or now this is really just connected to selling my book at the end of the day. And like, it was just like, this is something fun that I
Mhm.
spent like a lot of hours on. Do you like it? And everybody's like, yeah. And I'm like,
Yeah.
We
that's
love
awesome. Like
it.
I think that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think when you
So
go
anyway, go
there,
ahead and promote your book that you go.
I don't even think there's a way that anyone on the internet can give me money. Like I'm not selling anything. I don't have something like 4 years old in the backlog somewhere, some course or something. I don't even think you can buy a PDF from me. I love that. Yeah, so I think there's a point, and I'm kind of learning about this through the whole Bean Island bit and through this thing, that people really appreciate at least the part of my personality that's like go way too far in something that absolutely does not matter, but it's purely done for the joy of it, and like
Yes.
Yeah.
done for the joy, but also bringing people into it. Like there's an entrance, and again, nothing to be asked for, and that's something I want to do more of. I think when you go like so far beyond what's normal, there you hit a level of absurdity that people love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I
Well, it's like the joke that
I would
like
agree. Yeah.
it's funny and then it's like not funny, but like if you keep on going long enough, it comes back around to being funny.
Right.
It's that
Yeah.
same kind of idea,
I,
right?
that's why I kept going in this project. Because can you imagine spending 4 years and then not having the payoff that we've been celebrating today?
Right.
Like
Right.
all that, and I never like pushed through to get to the it's funny again.
All right. So season 1 of the Kilopixel is over. What happens next?
So I'm curious about that. I want to pick your brains a little bit because I have it sitting here like disconnected from the internet. You can still see like what's happening, but you can't submit to it. And the only thing that's displayed is something that my system has picked. And it's sitting in my Zoom background for any calls I take. I'm planning to build a like collaborative mode where instead of submitting 1,000 pixels at a time, everyone that is on the web app at the same time can like change pixels live, which would be fun like in a meeting background. So basically let people mess around with my background. Feels like a fun mode to enable from time to time.
I
But
like
that's
that.
only like 10 people tops that are enjoying that. So I want to bring it back and stream it periodically. And this is what I wanted to pick your brain about. I thought about continuing with kilopix.com and like set up a more casual once a month live stream, have people submit basically the same mode as before, but I only play it for like 1 day, 24 hours, so you can get your thing in. I don't think that's going to get the same amount of response that the first one is. Like, there's no way we're not going to recapture, put that lightning back in the bottle or whatever the idiom is. Like, that happened. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen again on this thing. But I do enjoy playing with people's art on my machine, my art machine. Thank you, Chris. And so I want to like have some kind of collaborative mode there. So that's one thing I'd like to chat about. The other thing is I can just totally give over control of the display by pointing it at your API. So right now it's pointing at my API, which is like connected to the internet in this particular way. But if someone is an aspiring game designer, or if they have a social idea that they want to explore with, all this thing does is it says, hey, what pixel do I go to? And I'll poke it, and then I'll tell you what that is. And so it's totally decoupled from what we know as the front end of it on kilopixel.com. It could be running someone else's game. It could be doing something totally different. The only downside is that's only fun if you can see the thing. So then that gets me back in the live streaming game. And so it would have to be a good idea that I'd be willing to like live stream for a week again.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when you said something about it before, I've been thinking about it a bit. I don't have any great ideas, but I personally love the idea of like trying to put together an API that's just does something else. I just don't know what it would be. But I imagine that someone out there has a really neat idea, and we just have to find that person,
I talked to John Drexler for a while. Like, we had a whole call about, hey, John, how should I?
Yeah.
Do you have any ideas for like making this more of a social game? Like, help me work out those things. And we talked about things like some kind of territory control game. Like, if you're familiar with Go, like you're trying to control parts of the board, you could do something where people get a certain number of votes per hour or something like that to like make a team-based game that plays on black and white here or on and off. So something like that's possible. It's really like up to you. If you could design a game that used 1,000 pixels on the screen and like multiple people could collaborate on it, it would play here with an extra layer of absurdity, right? And there's like something real about this is actually happening in the real world. It's not just pixels on some website we're all clicking on.
What's the time, like what's the worst case scenario between two pixels, like in terms of timing?
Probably like 15 seconds tops. Like if it has to go from corner to corner, probably 15 seconds or less.
So you need to do something where it's like you can live with at least 15 to 20 seconds of latency. That's like a big constraint, but it's also a fun constraint. Like a thing that comes to mind for me is like a battleship / tic-tac-toe type game where the latency is like part of the game.
I think you have to design the latency in as a constraint. That's what makes it interesting.
But like where you're having to make calls with the information that you have now, but your calls are like going to get played out in the future, Like I think there's something you have a window there.
Like if you have to make a call in the window before the next thing happens, anticipating what might happen, that's an interesting, like you're not allowed to see what's about to be drawn until you've made your call. And then you can see whether you kind of got it right or wrong or something,
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I've also thought about people upvoting the very next pixel to change. So like there are 1,000 possibilities. What's the next pixel the machine should change? Like in the next 6 seconds. And then challenging them to draw a picture. So like you're going to draw a picture of this rabbit or a smiley face or whatever. Let's see if the internet can get there. That's kind of like a Twitch plays Pokemon, sort of like it's going to be a struggle, but it might be fun along the way.
Well, and it would be kind of fun if you're thinking about like a game. There's also a world where there's like someone whose goal is to draw a different picture.
Right.
Or maybe it's two teams.
Which picture
and
can win? Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I also love the idea. I mean, I know you've talked about like putting this in a physical space before. I do. I know that doesn't, then the internet doesn't get to enjoy it necessarily. Although maybe someone would be cool with you live streaming from their location. But like, I do think it's kind of a neat idea to be like, oh, when I go to this coffee shop, like there's a way for me to like even I hate to throw more work on your lap, but like imagine a like a maybe an iPad mounted in the space that has the current drawing. And like anyone can go up and just touch to change what's drawn.
That's very close to my original concept, except my plan was to just have a QR code that people could scan that would have like some auth built into the URL. So only people who are scanning that QR code could control it. And then hope that like anywhere from 0 to 5 people in that room would be interested in monkeying with it. That feels like a manageable size for people to manipulate together. Sure. I do think I would love to bring it back to my friend's coffee shop, best coffee shop in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, Shift Coffee Shop. I think people in that community would really appreciate it. And since that was like the original concept, I think it'd be very satisfying for me to say, hey, Laura, can I put this in your shop for a week? And they'd totally be down for it. And I think that would be personally satisfying for me to like work out of the coffee shop for the week, basically, and keep an eye on it. And then just see how they handle it, like how the patrons of the coffee shop interact with it.
How portable is it?
Not very. I've thought about like, since this has got the response that it has, there's some interests. Like I could put together an interesting conference talk about here's how I built this ridiculous thing, and like basically the podcast that we're recording here, I think I could turn into something that people would enjoy. And so I've considered,
100%.
Of course, if you give a 25-minute conference talk, you want this thing to draw something in 25 minutes next to be on stage, right?
Yes.
And so I've considered like what conference could I drive this to, and how could I set it up on stage? It has like a metal bracket that runs behind it. There's a matching bracket on my wall, but like it's not something I can ship. It's something I would like carefully put in the back of my minivan and carefully drive to wherever I need it to be.
I also feel like you don't want it to draw one thing over the course of 25 minutes. You want to click through slides and wait 5 minutes for each slide to change.
This is the anti-Dave Hicking, right? So Dave Hicking did a tight 10 minutes with like 60 slides. You have never seen so many slides per second in a talk. What if I did a talk with like 2 slides that are slowly revealed?
It would be so much fun, and it would actually be a really interesting challenge to try to like draw text right in the middle in a way where you could like think about the wording and the font choice ahead of time, such that like you can actually change from one set of words to another set of words by only moving a few pixels.
That'd
be so sick. That would be so fun. And I just love the idea of you like being on stage and like holding up a clicker and clicking the button, and the arms start moving to draw your next slide. Like, I'm sorry, but now that's the only way you can do it.
It's continually going, and you're just timing your talk to whatever the slide. Like, it's just constantly changing, and when you hit the word from the slide, it's like right there when you need it. And like, I don't know, that'd be so cool.
I just want to go back to the part where Chris said, "I don't want to put any more work on your plate," and we just workshopped a conference talk. Hard level already, and then time it down to basically 10 seconds or so. So you're hitting your marks every couple of minutes down to the second as this machine that you built and drove across the country is drawing your slides for you.
Okay, but that's the level of confidence that we have in you. We think we know that you can do that.
Yeah.
We expect no less than that from you.
I mean, a much simpler thing to do with it, like social accounts like draw Paddington into a movie or Photoshop Paddington into a movie every day until I forget. Like, have you seen stuff like this?
Yeah.
You could like, just take photos of the final results, like as like if you can automatically extract a photo of the final image and like draw a GIF over the course of 2 days, and then at the end, like restitch it back together to a GIF, but it's your Kilopixel. So it'll post that photo every time it's like done with the frame, and people can follow along with it, and then it'll say like, and here's the final GIF, like.
Yeah.
And it'll, kind of cycle through that. It's not as exciting as a conference talk where you time the whole thing exactly, but it is a simpler mode that you could probably already do right now. You know what I mean?
I also really like the idea of turning it over to somebody and not streaming it and just like taking a picture if it ever does something that you think is noteworthy. Just be like it would be an interesting experience to try to control it without being able to see it. And then basically you could just be like, if you manage to do something cool with this, I will post about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I don't think you have to live stream it. I think you could just, if you see something in your Zoom background that looks cool, just hop out of the frame, take a screenshot, and like say something about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. That would also be kind of interesting.
That's interesting. It also makes me think maybe instead of totally handing over the API to someone else and this machine just blindly hitting someone else's API. So for example, I have a mode that scans the whole, like I can set the pixels to an unknown state, and that will tell the controller, hey, I don't know what this pixel is, but go there and then don't poke it. Just tell me what it is. And so it sets all 1,000 pixels to this unknown state, and then it takes 10 minutes maybe to go read all that. That's really useful to know, like, this is actually the state, nothing has gone awry, essentially. And that's kind of a feedback loop that's useful to have that a third-party API wouldn't have. So maybe mine sits in the middle and says, I know what the state of the machine is. You tell me what you want it to be, and I'll figure it out.
I was going to say, I think you need to sit in the middle between those two things, in my opinion.
I disagree.
I disagree
so wholeheartedly. Because then
full control.
Yeah, I think it's got to be full control, because like half the fun is navigating like how do you want to draw it, like what mechanism, like what method do you want to do for picking the pixels, like
but how does him sitting in the middle stop that? Like I think the middle part is just a sanity check of like setting some bounds, like saying like don't throw me a pixel that's outside the bound, things like that. I don't know if you have those guardrails set up on the controller itself, but like it's just a safety mechanism, not so much I'm controlling anything mechanism. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like a sanity check middleware sort of thing.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. So basically, the Kilopixel could hit kilopix.com. The normal API does. Kilopix.com, instead of saying, here's what you should do, hits your API and says, what do you want next? And then sanitize it like you didn't give me a negative pixel value or something.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Sure.
You're gonna sit here on over-engineered and tell me not to over-engineer something, Chris? Come on, man.
Let's be practical here. Come on.
Yeah, so I'll just put this out there. If you have an idea, if you've been listening to this conversation, you have the seed of an idea, reach out to me. I'll consider anything and everything. So worst I can say is no, that doesn't do it for me, or that's not going to work because of this reason. But I would love to explore ideas with anyone who's listening.
For a very reasonable price. Very reasonable price.
This is how I make some money.
He'll give you a discount.
For tens of dollars, perhaps.
Unless you're Microsoft, and then it's tens of thousands of dollars.
Yes.
For sure.
Or Sentry.
Yeah, if any big corporations want to reach out to Ben and you license this technology, reach out to Ben. Ben would love to hear from you.
Something on this. I've been hunting ever since I made that shower control post, basically where I complain about how lousy shower controls are in America. I've been hunting for a sponsorship from Kohler Corporation. Maybe this is how I could sell. I can draw their ads on my Kilopixel, and I can have a nice shower for free.
There you go. Do they make a nice shower, though?
That's a good question.
I think so. I don't know. I'll ask you for that. You can be the judge.
To find people like Kohler, they absolutely do. Yes.
Oh man. All right. Well, despite the technical failings, this was fun. I hope that
to be
people
clear,
get
not
to hear
my technical failings.
It's 100% Joe's
not
fault.
Joe's technical failings.
It's me. Sorry, I have a family. Jeez.
That's the technical failing, not that you have a family.
About 45 minutes into this podcast, Joe moved rooms. Did you close your laptop? Is that what you did?
It was closed and plugged into my external monitor. So as soon as I unplugged it, it just like blew up.
Yeah,
that's what.
Because it was I don't know what to do here.
So Zencaster decided, you guys are done recording, and we come back, and Chris's mic. Let us know. Let Chris know if you find the
off
first
in the comments.
If you like the first 45 minutes or the last 20 better.
Technical failings abound.
Oh my God.
Not limited to just Joe. I love you, Ben. I'm gonna actually sit and edit a podcast for the first time.
Wow.
It'll
Thank you so much, Chris.
And hopefully the listener gets to hear it,
They better. Come on, man. All right, boys.
Thanks for coming along on this. I said it earlier. I'll say it again. Thanks for being the best partners and encouragers and hype men that I could ask for on this. So
thanks for sharing it with us,
man. Yeah,
come on. It was
so much fun.
Such a joy to be like, in the inside in the beginning there, getting to see it come together. It was great.
Agreed.
All right.
Agreed. It was awesome. There. Love you, buddy.
All right. Love you too.
Still got to do the outro.